Don't call it a podcast. This is broader than pods. We're rapping about God and the movies we laud. Talk about the odd meaning of cinema themes. The filing cast is fondly in between your ears. Your ears. Your ears. Don't call it a podcast.
Welcome to Filing, where we love to think and rap about our love of cinema. I'm Sean Patrick, and I'm with Brandon Mitchell.
Hey, what's up?
We are idea files, story files, and cinephiles. Our aim is to share those loves and understand their value and importance in our lives, with each other, and everyone who listens. In this episode, we are introducing our cast and also discussing our first series of episodes titled The After the Life Inspiration Series. This series will include 11 or 12 episodes. We discuss one movie in each episode, and we chose each of these movies to inspire an original movie that we are producing and planning to screen at an event called The Fest 2026, aka The After the Life, on July 18th, 2026. Welcome to the Filing Podcast, Brandon.
Yeah, welcome to you as well.
Thanks. So this is our inaugural episode of the cast. Don't call it a podcast. I made the mistake. I called it a podcast, but it's much broader than pods. So I'd like to welcome everyone who's listening to the cast, and, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we're trying to do. Let's talk about how we're going to try to do it, and then we can get into a discussion about the first series. So we call the cast filing, which is a suffix denoting fondness for a specific thing, such as cinephile. It's also a Greek word that means love. We try to communicate that in the opening lyrics. It's pretty clear what we're talking about there, but if there's any confusion, allow me to clarify. We just want to talk about movies. We want to talk about the themes of movies, characters in movies, everything about movies. And, I consider great filmmakers as a type of God, a thing worthy of worship and praise, because I hold in high regard art and the art form of movie making. I think great artists deserve praise, deserve discussion, deserve respect, and I am in awe of them. And so I want to fondly denote my love for them as much as possible, and also educate myself. And Brandon, what are your thoughts?
I agree with all of that stuff. Definitely one of the aims here is, we love talking together about movies, and we do it all the time. So why not put it in cast form? But I think what we are quickly realizing is that there's a learning process to it. Once we start having these conversations and watching movies with a even more scrutiny or way more intentionality behind it, you just learn things all over the place from each other and from the movies. So I think that's a huge reason to do this show.
Oh yeah. It's definitely calling into question my effective or ineffective forms of communication and inspiring me to improve that. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
You tend to improve things that you keep doing. So That is
Yeah,
our aim.
and you come up with the idea, and coming up with the idea a lot of times is easier than the execution. So we're in the middle of learning all of that stuff right now. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. So everyone who's listening, just bear with us. And, we are always open to criticism. So if you go to our website, filingpodcast@gmail.com is our email address. Feel free to send us an email and be critical of the cast in general or our commentary on any particular movie, or if you have a movie you want reviewed by us, shoot us an email. We will respond. And I will appreciate any sort of feedback. That said, let's get into what this initial series will be. So we have this series that we're working on called the After the Life Inspiration Series. And as I discussed in the introduction, it's about 11 or 12 episodes. Each episode is a movie that we review, and we chose these movies to inspire an original movie that we're producing and planning to screen this summer at an event called the Fest 2026, aka the After the Life. Again, the event is scheduled for July 18th, 2026. If you go to thefest2026.com, you can read all about it and learn what you need to do to attend the event. But let's talk about it real quick. Brandon, what is the Fest 2026?
Well, the Fest 2026, primarily it's a all-day music event, but also a fundraiser. It's a celebration of life and living, and it's just a very unique, fun day that a bunch of people can gather together and experience. So, the fundraiser portion of it is to raise money for oncology nurses in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I lost my mom last year and wanted to give back to all of the nurses and all of those people that kind of helped her through that whole journey. And so we have a history, and we love putting on events that focus on music and stuff like that. So we're just putting it all together, having a whole bunch of musicians come play all day long, and try to have the idea that, we're all on this planet for a short period of time, and we need to sometimes make special events to get together and celebrate and enjoy being around each other. So hopefully this will do that and raise money for a good cause.
That's awesome. Go to thefest2026.com to make your donation and learn how to attend the event. So the event is also subtitled The After the Life. Can you give me more insight as to why it's called The After the Life? Maybe you want to keep some of that information secret. Maybe not. I'm fine with you putting it all out there.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I believe that the name of it came about way before an actual serious consideration of doing it. I could be wrong about that, but the last big event of this kind of nature was actually we threw in 2010, and that event that was our last big event. We did it for 8 years in a row, but that last one, we knew it was going to be the last one. So we changed the title from just the generic The Fest to The Life because, just kind of like a fun way of making an event be like, it is like all of these events, all of these moments that you have are part of life. And we just wanted to draw as much attention to this event is basically celebrating the life, all of our lives and all that stuff. So in 2010, that was the name of the last event that we did. And then, I feel like we joked around maybe about doing another event someday and saying we should call it the After the Life. Obviously playing on Afterlife as well. But when when everything happened with my mom and losing her, and she was a big character in all of our events, the fest and the life and all of that stuff. I don't know. It just took on us doing this again and honoring her. That title, I think, had even more meaning. And I think we're people that find humor even in sometimes like sad events and things like that. So I don't know. It just all seemed to come together, and our joking title of the After the Life became, let's just do that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't recall when we actually came up with that name. I do remember telling your father what we were going to call it. And he laughed. And that pretty much solidified to me that that would definitely be a title of the event. Mm-hmm. But it's more of a subtitle.
Yeah, right.
But it is a title of this inspiration series that we're introducing in this episode. So every Saturday for the next 12 or 13 weeks, we're going to release a new episode discussing a movie that is part of the After the Life inspiration series. Brandon, why don't you briefly explain what the After the Life inspiration series is? And I will add as needed.
Yeah, I'll probably need you to add some. We're working on making a short film movie that
short-ish.
Yeah.
It's actually evolved into 2 short films.
Yeah. In order to keep the word short in there, we had to split it up into 2. So, so we're working on this. We're working on this movie, and I think in the initial phase of deciding what type of movie we were going to make and what it was going to be about, we just started compiling inspirations, other movies, as a way of, being inspired. Saying, what if we kind of do scenes from this movie and this movie and this movie? Was it something like that?
Yeah, it was something like that. We started the brainstorming process for this movie a really long time ago, like maybe 1 or 2 years when we first started contemplating whether or not we wanted to do another fest event. And eventually the name, The After the Life, materialized as a joke, as you mentioned. And, here and there, we came up with some ideas, we'd write them down. And then more recently, we collected all those ideas and analyzed them and came to a conclusion that we needed some influence and some inspiration. And we wanted to learn more about movies and the movie making process and how to write movies. And so we chose this collection in order to educate us and also inform this original movie that we were trying to write and produce. And so we had a lot of brainstorming sessions. And I remember thinking about it in terms of bizarre conflict, because we started identifying a lot of darkly themed movies in order to inspire the conflict in our movie, which was going to lean more toward dramedy or comedy. And we thought it would be funny to take more serious movies and use those as inspiration to inform our sillier movie. That's what I recall in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know?
And there was another aspect to it too, where I think we just started when we were throwing movies out there, and well, obviously we would have to watch these movies. So there was another part of when we started picking movies and watching them really quickly. We got into a new phase of analyzing movies, I think. And we started honing in on just what movies do in the first 15 minutes is interesting to check that out. And we started going through, we actually went down like a little detour and going through my physical DVD collection, just starting at the beginning in the A section and just trying to watch the first 15 minutes of every movie in my collection, just taking note on what happens. Like, what do screenwriters and filmmakers do just with the first 15 minutes, you know? And so we kind of went down that rabbit hole for a little while and then got into picking these particular movies and then watching them and really starting to analyze them a little bit deeper than just sitting down and pushing play and letting a movie just wash over you.
Yeah, we called that the 15-minute exercise. The first 15 and I think we only did that with one episode for this series. And so I think it's important to note that this is our first series and we're still learning the process on how we want to talk about the movies, and we're still refining our ideas and ability to communicate about these ideas, but we try to keep it loose and entertaining as much as possible. Sometimes it takes a more serious tone as we're trying to also figure out the tone of the cast in each episode. And so it's all a bit of an experiment. And the experiment is all designed to refine our education and understanding of movies, but ultimately inform this original movie. Because ultimately, we want to be filmmakers and we want to write screenplays and produce as much as possible for the rest of our lives. And I think it might be important to discuss like why we want to do that. Like, what is really motivating us to think about movies, discuss movies, and make movies? Why are they important? I have a lot of abstract ideas as to why I think it's important. I think that there is a lot of survival value in art, and especially in movies, because I think it integrates so many different art forms and resembles reality to such a degree that one can be engrossed and really learn what is important, really experience what is important, not just learn. Because I don't think art is primarily an educational tool. I think it's primarily an inspirational tool to help people live the best life that they can. Often we need to see that. We need to see that exemplified. I think great movies do that. And I think great movies inspire. Even darkly themed movies or movies that are difficult because they can, encourage the mind to consider alternatives, to what is best. And so that's why I think it's really important because we need to think and feel in order to figure out what we want to do. And art in general allows us to contemplate really deep and broad and important ideas. And movies do that, but also allow us to experience, see and hear and feel a world that can exemplify and demonstrate these ideas. So that's really what motivates me
Mm-hmm.
is the value that movies can provide in our lives. And I just want to refine my understanding of that and integrate it into my discussions of them and the movies that I write and produce and present to the world. And that's what it means to me. That's why I'm motivated to do this and everything. So
Yeah.
that's that. Sorry for turning this into a very solemn podcast, but that is what motivates me. I take it pretty serious.
Yeah. I see that. I agree with all of that. I also think there's another side of it that I just love movies.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of art in the general sense, but the art of film and movies just speaks to me the loudest. And I find it to this day endlessly fascinating. And I feel like it will never stop. So, you can go through phases of, like getting into an author and reading, or getting, this is me personally, like have phases of going to a museum or something like that and getting interested in a painter, but those other types of art forms seem to ebb and flow, where the trajectory of cinema is never ending. It's like a freight train for me ever since I was the youngest kid, 4 or 5 years old. Movies like immediately became important to me, so that's definitely a huge factor for me, along what you were saying. But then thirdly is I just also like a some sort of environment that requires it doesn't ultimately require it, but benefits from collaboration on a large scale. When you think about huge movies like the big ones of last year, I mean, really any movies that came out last year, but like think One Battle After Another or Sinners or movies like that, it's just like massive amounts of people doing so many different things, and that's inspiring to me and fascinating, how all of these individuals can get together and work on something. So I mean, it's a great inspiration, or something that inspires me to like one day work on a piece of art that could have so many people collaborating together. So that's another thing that I look forward to.
Yeah, I look forward to the fun and entertainment component too. I love the experience of watching movies. I try to approach my Sundays as an opportunity to go to church, which I consider to be the movie theater. I try to do that every Sunday. I don't always succeed, but I'm always thinking about it. I'm always looking at what's playing, and I always want to, just don't always have the time. Because I want the experience. I want to experience the emotional impact from a great movie. I want to feel the inspiration. And whether or not I am a successful movie maker, I will always be a successful movie spectator. And I think that can be its own occupation. You know, some movies are more complicated than others. Some movies are more dense than others, and they all inspire contemplation, and they can all affect your life in subtle and important ways. Even if you're a casual movie watcher, they're that powerful. And so I almost consider it like a drug. It's like if you're going to take a drug, then you should know why you're taking it and be very careful, because there are side effects. And I think watching movies or watching any form of entertainment or exposing yourself to any form of art, there are potential side effects. And I think there are enormous benefits as well. And I think it's important to just be mindful of that, you know, where one can easily just approach it as a fun and entertaining thing, which is innocent enough. And maybe that's all it is. I tend to think it's more than that. And I tend to think that it's very important. I'm really trying to get better at the fun component. You know, I can, I tend to be a little serious, and you're likely going to experience that, listeners, when you expose yourself to these episodes. And part of that's just me trying to figure things out. Part of that's my personality, taking things serious, taking things important, because, you know, I think my life is important. I think everyone's life is important every second. And I think movies are really important. I think art's really important. And I want it to be the best. And I want it to speak about important things. And I want it to be fun and entertaining and engaging. It's never ceased to amaze me how complex and involved and amazing movies are. They inspire and perplex me to this day, and I just want to learn more about them. So the only way to do that is to talk about them, expose yourself to them, and try to make them. So that's what the After the Life Inspiration series at its core is trying to do. It's informing us on how to make a movie. And these discussions are you and I going through all of our thoughts and feelings that we can think of about the movies in general, the industry, etc. And hopefully everyone finds it entertaining. If not, we're going to continue to do it because I've been learning a lot doing it. So that said, Brandon, is there anything else you need to add?
No, you want to go through our inspiration movies?
You want to talk about each one briefly?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we can do that. So the first movie that we chose, I don't recall if you chose it or if I chose it, was the movie Matinee, directed by Joe Dante, starring John Goodman and Kathy Moriarty.
I would guess I chose this one. This is like a huge favorite of mine when I was a kid. And yeah, I love the incorporation of like a live event and a movie that sort of breaks the fourth wall. So I think this one kind of popped out at me because of that.
Yeah. And this movie is about a filmmaker who is trying to create an experience for an audience within the backdrop of the 1960s Cuban Missile Crisis in Key West, Florida. It's a great movie. It's really funny. It's kind of a kid's movie, so I would highly recommend it. And that'll be the first movie we talk about in this series, so stay tuned for next week when we release that episode. After the matinee episode, we're going to talk about Apocalypse Now. It's the 1979 Francis Ford Coppola Vietnam movie starring Martin Sheen and Marlon Brando. And I believe I chose this movie to add to the list.
Probably.
Because we were looking for... We've joked about finding Vietnam movies to use as an influence for some characterization. At the time, we thought it would be really funny to use Vietnam era references and inspiration for a movie that takes place in the 2020s. Whether that lands in the actual original movie we create remains to be seen, but we're doing it nonetheless.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think too, back in the day, way back in the Fest days, we had a live, like a play performance that would happen. That was with this character, Chester Mansfield, who was a frog who had a tea party with a bunch of characters, almost like a Mad Hatter type situation. And that was like a live performance we would do. And I think that we were at some point thinking maybe connecting that to some Apocalypse Now thing. so yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know if that'll make it into the final movie, but there was some...
I don't recall that portion of the brainstorming process at all, but we brainstormed for a couple of months.
Yeah, because there was...
That may...
Yeah, there was... the character Chester Mansfield was created, I think, by this dude, Ryan Bowe, my brother-in-law, and then he continued that saga even after the Fest was gone, and it turned more military or something.
I don't know.
I don't know if that, in my mind, I was connecting that to Apocalypse Now or something like that. But anyway, there's some connection there.
All right. Well, we are venturing into the foggy realms of the subconscious.
Right.
Much like Martin Sheen's character does in Apocalypse Now as he ventures upriver searching for Colonel Kurtz, a rogue military officer during the Vietnam War who Martin Sheen is assigned to assassinate. There's some sort of connection there. The fogginess. The fogginess and the venture. Anyway, in that episode, we try to focus on the first 15 minutes of Apocalypse Now in order to identify what is called the inciting incident of the movie. We'll get into more detail in that episode, so stay tuned for that.
Mm-hmm.
After Apocalypse Now, I don't recall what movie is next. Do you know?
I think the Nicolas Cage movie adaptation.
Ah, yes, the Spike Jonze directed movie adaptation written by Charlie Kaufman, starring Nick Cage and Meryl Streep and Chris Cooper. Chris Cooper won an Oscar for that movie. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think I chose this movie to add to the list. It's a movie about a writer struggling through the writing process, adapting a novel to a screenplay. And the movie is about that. So again, a movie about the creative filmmaking process that we wanted to pull from. That's my recollection of why we chose it.
Mm-hmm. And that movie is a huge movie just between the two of us, I feel. I feel like when our friendship was becoming like a strong bonded friendship, that movie was right up in there, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's a natural one as we're trying to work on our first project together in a long time that we would look at that, you know?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point. So the next movie on the Inspiration Series list is Nashville, directed by Robert Altman, starring an ensemble of a lot of different characters. You chose this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you explain to me, if you recall, why you decided to choose it?
I mean, Robert Altman's one of my favorite directors. I probably would, in the same way of choosing adaptation, is just like it's inevitable that I'm probably going to pick Nashville just because there's a music there. The movie has a live music concert happening in it. We're trying to do that with this event. And, yeah, I mean, so it's kind of a movie just to throw out there to say, I think all of these movies, maybe to varying degrees, could have just been like, hey, I thought of this movie. Let's check it out and see if it will inspire us at all. And I think for me, Nashville is an easy go-to of just, I just want to watch it again and maybe we'll pull something from it. So it probably was as simple as that.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, the live event component in the movie Nashville, as well as all of the music in the movie, seemed to be the primary reason why we decided to include it in the list. So stay tuned for that. After Nashville, we're going to talk about Woody Allen's movie, The Purple Rose of Cairo, starring Mia Farrow and Jeff Daniels. Again, I believe this is a movie that you chose.
Yeah. And that one is another, I mean, that one involves movies and a character who comes out of the screen into real life. And so again, that's like Matinee. It's something where there's kind of multiple perspectives of an audience is in the movie, you know, but we're actually an audience watching the movie. So I just like those multiple layers in movies, and they can factor into a live event as well.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite movies in our list. It might be my second favorite after Adaptation. It was the first time I saw it, watching it for this series, and I'm looking forward to watching it again and also watching every single Woody Allen movie ever created. I laughed out loud watching The Purple Rose of Cairo, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. So after The Purple Rose of Cairo, we will be talking about the Adrian Lyne directed movie Jacob's Ladder, starring Tim Robbins. I believe I chose this movie. Again, it is a Vietnam-themed movie, and I think I was just trying to, again, pull from that era because I thought it was humorous, and it was an example of a movie I recall liking and hadn't seen in a long time, and it has a unique twist. So that's why I recall choosing that movie.
Yeah, it's it factors in on the project we're working on, which is interesting. But yeah, because some of these, you know, it's like once we figured out a certain angle, for example, the Vietnam angle, then you can also brainstorm and just be like, oh, here's a Vietnam movie, and whatever, and just throw them out there. And the fact that this one stuck is interesting because it's a super scary movie. I still remember the first time I watched it as a kid, and it sticks with me to this day as potentially one of the most scared I've ever been watching a movie. I don't think it functions that way anymore as like a mid-40s-year-old dude, but definitely as a kid, it was so scary. So it is humorous on that side to pick something that's like so dark and harrowing and be like, we're gonna try to make this into our comedy and then
Well, it
continue
was
down the
produced in a
list.
bygone era. It was released in 1991, which was, over 30 years ago. So I think there is, by today's standards, humorous elements to that movie.
Yeah.
And we'll get into more detail about that when we talk about it in the future. I did want to say we are not making a Vietnam movie. But for whatever reason, we thought it would be humorous to develop one of the characters as if maybe he came from that realm of time. You're going to have to watch the movie. We're going to have to make the movie to figure it out, but you're going to have to watch the movie to figure it out. So, but primarily, I think we wanted to watch Jacob's Ladder because it was a dark movie that had really well-defined conflict. And we were trying to identify how to determine what conflict we wanted to add to our story and how that would affect the characters. So that's really what I recall motivating me to add it to the list. After Jacob's Ladder, we are going to discuss the Darren Aronofsky movie Requiem for a Dream, which is a movie about drug addiction. And again, I recall choosing that myself because it dealt with a different sort of conflict, the conflict of being addicted to a drug. And we thought that might also inform some of the characterization in the movie, some of the conflict. And it was also one of my favorite movies as I came of age, coming out of film school, or maybe I was in film school when it was released. I don't recall. I've always respected Darren Aronofsky as an original filmmaker and storyteller, and thought it would be a good movie to pull inspiration from as we developed our movie. After Requiem for a Dream, we chose The Deer Hunter, the 1980 Michael Cimino Vietnam movie starring Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, and Meryl Streep. Another Meryl Streep movie. Again, this falls in line with the Vietnam movie era inspiration. And I think that's the third and final Vietnam movie we chose to watch in order to develop our original movie. Again, we're not making a Vietnam movie. We just thought it'd be funny to pull in some inspiration from a variety of different Vietnam movies. Do you have any thoughts on The Deer Hunter real quick?
Yeah, and I mean, the other side of it outside of making the movie is just getting into watching these movies for deep analysis, and you have kind of classics of Apocalypse Now and Deer Hunter. I mean, they're classics in the sense of they're studied a lot, and they come from an old era of movie making and stuff like that. So I think that and that might have influenced the script that we're working on to become much longer than the short we might have anticipated, because both of those movies are like 3+ hours.
That's entirely possible. I think it's because I'm just too wordy and inefficient with my choice of words.
Nah.
You're being too nice. Anyway, so after The Deer Hunter, we talk about the 1991 movie Rush, starring Jason Patric, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Sam Elliott. And we chose this movie specifically because it also is a story involving the drug war. And I think I chose this movie because it also had a drug theme to it. Since we already chose Requiem for a Dream, I thought it best to choose another one that was very different from Requiem for a Dream and dealt with a different, albeit similar, component to drugs and drug addiction and the drug war. I also recall Rush being very funny. even though it is a drama.
Yeah, like
And I think
unintentionally funny.
Unintentionally funny. I still respect this movie a lot, and I do not want to degrade or disrespect this movie at all. I believe it was directed by a first-time director, so I have a lot of respect for all directors, especially first-time directors, because it takes a lot of courage in order to do that. So I don't really want to. I don't think we aim to make fun of it in the episode, but I do confess I chose it because in part, I thought it was funny when I saw it many years ago, and I thought that would be a good idea to watch that for its because it's integrated to the drug theme that we're playing around with, but also because we're trying to make something that's more of a comedy than a drama.
Yeah, and I think we should say I don't believe we're making a drug movie either.
We are not. We're not making a movie about drugs.
We're just taking these as inspiration and doing something hopefully a little like reminiscent, but a little different, especially in terms of theme.
Absolutely. So after Rush, the next movie on our list is the Michel Gondry directed movie Be Kind, Rewind, starring Jack Black and Yassine Bey, a.k.a. Mos Def. I believe I added this movie primarily for two reasons. It is a comedy, and it is also about making movies for fun and looking for original, creative, even low budget ways to represent the elements in your story. And anybody who knows Michel Gondry, the director, knows that he is a very unique filmmaker who uses unique production design ideas to represent the ideas in his movies.
Right on.
And then we had another movie that we may or may not add to the list, remains to be seen. It's another Robert Altman movie called Prairie Home Companion. And I believe you chose this movie because, again, it takes place in the backdrop of a live event, and there's a lot of music involved.
Yeah, it's another one. It works well in Robert Altman's whole filmography as well. It works as a conclusion of his entire career and life, but it also works with Nashville back to back, since they are kind of similar in the way that they're set up, with a live show going on. So this is kind of a natural one for me to also choose. It has a very finale feel to it, so that's why we haven't actually watched it yet, because I think, want to get farther along in the process, and it could be even one that we finish the Fest 2026 and then, as a celebration of sorts, watch this movie and do a show about it.
Yeah, I'm good with either option.
Yeah.
We may not have time to do it before
Mm-hmm.
the Fest 2026, so we may have to do it afterwards. But
Right.
Either way, we're going to do it. So stay tuned. So those are the movies in the list that inspire what we're calling the After the Life, the movie, which will be cut into two parts. The first half will be released prior to July 18th, 2026, which is the currently scheduled date for the Fest 2026. And the second half will be screened at the event. So that said, that is the conclusion of our first episode. Again, welcome to the Filing Podcast. We look forward to releasing episodes about our movie reviews, and I look forward to discussing the Tattle Inspiration series. Oh, the After the Life Inspiration series, which as an acronym we call it Tattle. And, getting as deep and detailed about these movies as our minds desire. So thanks, Brandon, for participating in this series and
thank you.
working on me with this event and this movie. I'm looking forward to releasing all these episodes and making this movie and celebrating on July 18th
Right
at the
on.
Fest 2026. So in the meantime, everybody go file it.
Don't call it a podcast, this is broader than pods. We're rapping about gods and the movies we laud. Talking about the odd meaning of cinema themes. The filing cast is finally in between your ears.